The book of Ezra tells the story of the return of the remnant of Jews back to the promised land from captivity in Babylon. There, this remnant sought to rebuild the temple and reestablish themselves as a community marked by God as his treasured possession. This small band of Jews faced a host of obstacles and impediments along the way, but through it all, God once again showed that he was faithful to his promises. In 539 BC, King Cyrus of Persia defeated the once mighty Babylonian Empire. Once in power, Cyrus did what the Babylonian kings had been unwilling to do. He allowed the captive peoples to return to their homelands and to worship their respective gods. Among those exiles was a small band of Israelites who were allowed to return to Jerusalem while remaining subject to the Persian emperor. The return took place in two stages, the first of which was led by Zerubbabel in about 538 BC. He led a group back to the Promised Land and began the works of rebuilding the temple. This daunting work took 2 decades to complete. The people finally finished in the 6th year of the reign of Darius. Ezra led a second group back in 458 BC and instituted a number of reforms during that time, calling the people to account for their practice of intermarriage with their pagan neighbors and leading them to confess their sins. The story of Ezra portrays a grand scope of the task of rebuilding the temple as well as rebuilding the nation as a worshiping people of God. Through his gracious acts on their behalf, God fulfilled his promise to the people to allow them to dwell in the land of promise and worship him in the temple. The words of earlier prophets rang in the people's ears as they faced the overwhelming task of rebuilding the life of the people of God in the land of God. Their hope was not simply that God would rebuild the temple, they trusted that God could rebuild their hearts as well. Zerubbabel, a descendant of David, is found in the genealogy of Jesus Christ at the outset of Matthew's Gospel. Perhaps more important, when God returned his people to the land of promise, he took another step towards setting the stage for the advent of Jesus Christ, who was to be born in this land in the city of Bethlehem. Through Christ, God now calls his people to repent and return to him, and grants them forgiveness and restoration when they do. Now then make confession to the Lord, the God of your fathers, and do his will. Ezra 10:11.